Today I want to talk about these two cameras. They were released some 50 years apart, yet they show many commonalities. They were both made in Russia. This one here, the FT-2, was made during the Soviet era. Now, many Westerners want to believe that it is a spy camera used by the KGB, but that is complete nonsense, of course. It was made for the general public. The two cameras are closely related. They work on the same principle, use the same kind of mechanism. They are both they both take wide-angle shots, panorama pictures, and the way they do it is very interesting. As you probably noticed, you don't see a lens in front. Well, they do have lenses inside, and when you fire the shutter, the lens will come out and rotate from left to right and expose the film like that. So they are closely related. The FT-2 was actually the ancestor of the Horizon S3 Pro. This was made first and this was made last. In between the two, there were two other models. I bought the Horizon in 2003, I think, brand new from Russia, and it's been working very well. Now, both cameras are completely mechanical. They don't use batteries, and the rotating turret is powered by a spring. The way you use this camera, I'll show it on the Horizon, is that you wind up the spring with this lever here, and at the same time advance the film to the next frame, and then take the picture like that. The FT-2 is similar. Wind it up here, and then shoot. I wrote about the Horizon on my website, so if you are interested, look it up. The link will be in the description. I will talk more about the FT-2. When I got it, it didn't work, so I had to take it apart and fix it. So in the next half of the video, I will show you how to disassemble this camera and how it works internally. It's quite interesting. So keep watching. I will begin by pointing out the controls and show you how they work. We have a very simple fold-out viewfinder. Here is a nice bubble level in a lovely red color. Very useful when wanting to hold the camera perfectly horizontally, which is important for the kind of wide-angle panorama pictures this camera takes. And then there is this knob with which you advance the film to the next frame. This is all it does. The frame counter is here. It only works when there is film in the camera. This is the lever to cock the shutter with. And then you press this shutter release button to take the picture. Now, here is something important. When you start rotating this lever, initially nothing seems to be happening. Actually, what is happening, except we don't see it, is that the slit in front of the lens closes. And now, as I turn the drum, you can see how the slit is now closed to prevent light reaching the film. The reason you see this play in the movement of the lever is because now the slit opens. This movement is between the open and closed position. I'll press the shutter release button and slow down the rotation of the drum so that you can see how the lens is now visible. See? The camera has 3 different shutter speeds, and as you can see on this legend, they are controlled by these 2 levers. When both of them point towards you, then you get 400th of a second, the fastest speed. The slowest is 100th of a second, with this lever pointing to the left. I usually cock the shutter in this position and then select a slower shutter speed. Why that is will become clear later. Oh, did you hear that rattling sound? It is quite distinct from the sound we heard when the fastest shutter speed was set. Something is going on under the lid, and what that is will be revealed when I remove the top. By the way, see how the instructions are printed in English? This is another indication that the FT-2 was not a spy camera at all. Moving on, to load the camera with film, you first unlatch these 2 latches and then pull out the back. Now this might be difficult to do if the camera was sitting unused for a long time. Here is a film canister, and here is another. To remove the canister with the take-up spool, you need to pull up the film advance knob. Back in the day, film was sold wrapped in paper. The day-load cassettes we are accustomed to today were not yet valuable. You could buy film in bulk and cut it to whatever length you wanted. I forgot to mention that the camera doesn't have an aperture control. There was a great deal of reliance on the wide exposure latitude of black and white film. When I bought this camera, it did not work. I could not turn this lever and cock the shutter. To fix that problem, I had to remove the bottom of the camera. This can be done after taking out these 6 screws. Ignore this piece of paper, I put it here the last time I worked on this camera. When you work on your camera, make sure you mark the position of this sprocket wheel before removing it. It is not necessarily in the same position on all cameras. The spiral spring, which powers the rotation of the drum, is under this wheel, as we will soon see. And this wheel holds it slightly tensioned. I suspect that the shutter speeds, or more precisely, the rotation speed of the drum, is fine-tuned with this sprocket wheel. The pins, or stoppers, on either side prevent the sprocket wheel from turning. And now I'll remove them. Well, I don't need to completely remove them. Just swing them out of the way. Oh, there is still a cover plate to remove before we can see the spring. This doesn't come out very easily. Oops. The inner end of this spring became loose, and that is why the drum would not rotate. I wasn't able to finish the video yesterday because my camera ran out of battery. With the FT-2 you wouldn't have that problem, of course, because it doesn't rely on battery power. Now this is what the spring should look like when it sits comfortably in its position. I won't reassemble the bottom of the camera just as yet, except for this cover plate, because first I want to take off the top and show you what is underneath. So what we need to do is to remove these screws. This little one can stay put. And of course we also need to remove the winding. The knob can stay. It's a very simple mechanism. And then this one last. Okay, and now here we go. This is it. Now it would be nice if it was possible to remove the drum and examine the lens. Well, the beauty of this simple construction that it is possible and quite easy. You just need to turn this wheel and lift it out, just like that. We've seen this before, haven't we? Now, the lens is inside, but how do we get to it? Well, there is a screw here and another screw there. I guess if I take those out, I can remove the top. Let's try. No. Needs a little wiggling. There we go. And then with a bit of effort, here it is. Here is the lens. When I tried to fix this camera, I first went in through the top and took out the drum, just like we did now. And then I noticed this spring here, and I thought this was the one needed fixing. But as it turns out, it serves a different purpose. What it does, it closes the slit when we wind up the shutter. I will show you how in a minute. Now, in order to put this lens back into its case, notice that there's a little protrusion there. Don't know if you can see it. A little protrusion, and that and the end of the spring, this bit here, has to hook onto that protrusion. So it's very carefully. And then you turn it and feel the spring winding up and put it back like that. Okay, and now see how that spring is responsible to close that gap and open it when you take the picture. Now I'm going to reinstall the drum, and then we are going to look at how the shutter speeds are implemented. I'm using the term shutter speed loosely here because in fact it is the speed of the drum's rotation. Now with this, there's only one way to put this lid back because of the way the screw holes are arranged. Okay. Right, so that's that. And now it can go back to its place. Like so. Okay. Now this here has to go in a certain position. We actually should wind up the spring a little bit, and how much is unknown because I didn't mark the position of this wheel, unfortunately. So I'm just guessing that I should wind it up to a certain extent, but I don't know how much. Let's say like this. Then I need to secure it here. I used this as well. This is just my addition. Okay, so now let us put back the top of the camera But before we do that, let's examine what is on the underside, because this is interesting. This here is the counter, and these cogs engage in the perforation of the film, I suspect. This is the knob to advance the film, and here we have a catch for the shutter release button, and that stops this wheel from rotating here, or when we press the shutter release button, then the wheel is then free to rotate. So it should be, yeah, so when it is wound up, it is in this position, and see that stops the wheel from going back, and then when we press the shutter release button, it lets the wheel go, lets the drum rotate. So that's that. And then here is another interesting thing. These. So these are the levers where you set the shutter speed or the speed of the drum's rotation. And what they do is they go in and out. They either touch this wheel or don't, and when they touch the wheel has to rotate this, and as it rotates it slows down somewhat. So this is how the shutter speeds are implemented. Very, very, very unique, ingenious. It's a fairly crude implementation, but it's charming. I like it. All that remains now is to put back the camera's top and then use it for its intended purpose, that is to take wide-angle panorama pictures. Perfect.